Hello and welcome to Everyday Politics with Laura May Lindo. I am your host, Laura May, and I want to offer you this reflection as we get started today. Here we are on land held down, cared for, loved, and stewarded by the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. And I've been thinking a lot lately about financial health. And the fact that with a lot of communities that have experienced colonialism, financial health has not been one of the things that the structures have actually set up, even as we have taken these steps towards reconciliation. And so sometimes I worry about the ways in which we think that reconciliation should happen in today's world with the economy as it is. And one of those worries leads me to think a lot about how it is that Indigenous community members who have been presented with a number of obstacles that are not of their own making. So obstacles that are happening to them from the times of residential schools, which we've spoken about, to ongoing colonial realities that they experience even today in 2025. Where in these, the path towards reconciliation, do we talk about financial health? And how do we make sure that we support an understanding of financial health with and for Indigenous communities that makes sense for them? And so with that in the back of our minds, I decided to reach out to a good friend of mine, Dr. Trevor Charles, who is the founder and executive director of Lanterna Black Innovation Hub, or LBIH. He will be joining me right after this break to have a conversation about financial health and about innovation, entrepreneurship, and in particular, Black communities. So we will be back with Trevor right after this break. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. And thank you, Trevor. It's so lovely to have you here.
Oh, I'm overjoyed to be with you today.
It's the bread, isn't it?
I guess so. It's speaking to me, yes.
It's speaking to you. Okay, beautiful. Before I let you have any, it's like the trick, right? So I have really been excited to think about this notion of financial health. Mm-hmm. And what does it mean, especially in our region, when we have this reputation of being this innovation and entrepreneurial hub, right? And so lately we've been hearing a lot about federal and provincial investments in things like innovation, entrepreneurship, and a lot of people, like startups, are popping up here, and people are providing that kind of infrastructure to be able to help. One of the questions that I wanted us to sort of start with is just sort of in general terms, wherever that money is coming from, whether it's provincial or federal, I'm curious about what those newer investments mean for the way that the government, both federal and provincially, are thinking about stimulating our economy. Like what doors are opening now that may not have been open before these kinds of investments?
Yeah, I mean, I think Canada is very strong in research, you know, from an academic base, and I think that we can all acknowledge that. Where we really fall down is how we translate that research into through innovation, into building wealth within our country, and so you know, part of that is productivity, right? And because we are so rich in terms of our entrepreneurship ecosystem here in Waterloo region, I think it's an area that we can take the lead.
Yeah.
But we have to really ensure that those dollars, either federal, provincial, from whatever source, are used in a way that is really going to bring maximum benefit to the community, and also to support those startups.
Yeah.
Right? So what are the challenges with
For
our
sure.
startups? Maybe we can start there. typically, the way that funding works in Canada is that we're sort of tied towards an old concept of innovation, where we have an established industry partner and an academic partner that has a research program doing really great things with discovery and development of technology and all of that sort of thing. And then they try and put them together. When they do that, typically the funding will go all to the academic partner, and the industry partner is meant to bring in cash or in-kind value of some sort.
Okay.
So if you put yourself in the shoes of a startup, typically you don't have cash.
Yeah.
Unless you have a rich family. And then, you know, of course, that brings up other issues about who has access to the whole system, right? And this contrasts with systems in other countries. We can look at, you know, in the EU, in the US, often you have direct funding of startups. And we don't see that in Canada. We have funding of programs that support those startups, but we don't have direct non-dilutive funding of those startups. And, you know, this has been something that has been raised over decades, and it's fallen on deaf ears. But I think that's something that would really be a simple change. It would not really mean more dollars injected into the system. It's just how you use those dollars.
And that would be a better understanding of how innovation and startups and entrepreneurial ventures, like even just getting that mindset works. As you were speaking, I was thinking about the fact that thinking of like high school. In high school education, there is a desire right now with our current government in Ontario to ensure that students are career ready. But when you're to be career ready in a place like this, where you've got these opportunities to really think about innovation and entrepreneurial mindsets, then you are always thinking about the equity question that you had, right? Like, how do you get involved? Do we have funding that's available, or what kinds of programs would there have to be to ensure that young people are actually career ready for this kind of innovation career, right?
Yeah, one of the best ways to become career ready, no matter what career you're going to do, is really to stoke your passions. And often that has to do with, you know, young people are, most of them, idealists, right? They want to better the world. They want to better their community. That's a lot of what entrepreneurship is, right? You identify a problem. It can be a big problem and you take a small piece of it, or it can be a small problem to begin with. And you develop a solution to that. And then you do it in a way that you can find somebody to pay you for that, right? Right? So, and that mindset is something that can really stand you in good stead no matter what career you undertake, right? I mean, maybe you don't want to do a startup, but you want to, your experience with that entrepreneurship uncovers something that you can then pursue in your future studies that you then develop into a career. So I really like the idea of tying all of that together, because I think that that whole concept of entrepreneurship introduced to our youth can be very powerful.
I'm going to go backwards to something that you said that makes me, I think a lot about this program as an opportunity to help those that are watching become more civically engaged by asking different levels of government for the things that would help to make these systems work better, right? And so when you were saying that financial stream, where the pockets of money that the government at all these different levels are setting aside isn't actually going directly to the person or their startup, right? What kinds of things then could we be asking the government for to ensure that that shift happens? Like, I don't even know why we wouldn't be ensuring that the person that needs that funding the most has access to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be more money. It's just how that money is directed. Right? So a simple change could be, okay, let's promote partnerships between academic researchers and startups.
Okay.
And those startups could actually be commercializing research directly from those academic labs.
Yeah.
Right? They could even be done by graduate students or postdocs
Yep.
in those labs, right? But let's fund both that academic partner and the startup directly, and see where that takes us. And then that allows them to develop their enterprise to a point where it's investable, or it is generating enough revenue for it to scale on the revenue that it can generate.
And I wonder if that's part of the reason why we're seeing so many people leave the region, because I know that we have a lot of that infrastructure for the startups to begin, the ideation phases and to think about innovation and build new partnerships and try all of these things. But then I also hear stories, especially back when I was a member of provincial parliament, of people leaving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you're still hearing?
Oh yeah, yeah, and even Waterloo built Microsoft, right? Waterloo built all of these companies, right? And it's really a region of builders, and there's nothing wrong with that, but especially under the current, situation in the world that we're looking with, we have to look at how we can use that to benefit our region and our country.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know another one of the questions that keep coming up is like, how do we balance when you were speaking about the investment that you might have if you come from a wealthier family, for instance, right? Then the other kinds of pressures that we have on us right now with rising costs of food, rising costs of gas, housing costs, all of this kind of stuff, like the way that the government addresses that is siloed from their understanding of the other kinds of investments, right? So maybe that's another ask that people can be requiring from their governments, is that there be more of a integrated approach to addressing the stimulation of our economy that takes into consideration innovation. Like, what an innovative way to try and do some of this work, right?
Yeah, although I think that some of the responsibility has to come to the community as well, or
Talk
come
to me
from
about
the
that.
community. So
Yeah.
one of my mentors when I was growing up was Harry Jerome. So the famous Harry Jerome. I grew up in Vancouver. I was a track athlete and did some programming with him. And he was an interesting character because he really preached this idea of being self-sufficient, right? So I used to tell him, well, I'm having a difficult time getting, the sponsorship from shoe company, right? And he says, well, why are you worrying about that? You don't need the shoe company to sponsor you. You just need to work hard, go out there, break records, win medals, and then, that's basically your success. And then everything will flow from that, right? And I think that was a really important lesson because it's really, and I've really, that's sat with me for my whole life, the idea that you're responsible for your own success.
Yeah.
And by extension, your community is responsible for your own success. So if we take it to another level, then how can we build generational wealth in our Black community by investing in our Black community?
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
And not being afraid to take a chance on, some of those lights that we have in our community that we can see. I mean, we have an amazing talent, right? That we've been able to nurture, but an injection of funding from our community and, taking some equity in those ventures. And when you take equity, you have a piece of it, you're responsible for it, right? And that value comes back to the community, you can then make additional investments. I think that we have to, and that's really an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's something I think that really we need to develop and really pursue.
Thank you so much for that. We are going to actually take a break, but when we come back, I want us to focus our attention on some of the specific investments that have come through for Black entrepreneurs. But because you have been so awesome, it's your turn to get some snacks. We will be right back after this message. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so as promised, I said I want us to shift our attention now and focus on investments in Black entrepreneurship and Black innovation, right? Now, from your perspective, because you're the founder and executive director of LBIH, Lanterna Black Innovation Hub, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what LBIH does in our community, but I'd like to contextualize it in something that I was just reading the other day about some of these funds. So October 20th, 2025, the Honorable Evan Solomon, so the Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, and the Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, so FedDev Ontario, announced renewed funding through the Black Entrepreneurship Program, so the BEP Ecosystem Fund. And so I'm just going to quote something from this article, and for those that are watching, I'll be sure to have the articles that I'm talking about listed in the resource page. So it says, the Black Entrepreneurship Program Ecosystem Fund is part of the larger $189 million Black Entrepreneurship Program, BEP, designed to eliminate systemic barriers that limit access to capital and business resources for Black Canadians. Now, whenever I hear millions and billions, I always think to myself, for the vast majority of people, when you're struggling to find like $5, $10, it's difficult to imagine what that is. So we leave with an announcement like that thinking, oh, that's like so much cash. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about A, what LBIH does and what kind of work you're doing in community, and B, the amount of investment. Just what does that mean for an organization or the organizations that you're supporting?
Sure. So Lanterna Black Innovation Hub is a nonprofit organization that supports Black entrepreneurs in Waterloo region. So it's a nonprofit incorporated about 2 years ago. And it was formed out of the Liftoff Black Entrepreneurship Program that was funded through the first Black Entrepreneurship funding.
Okay.
And we, through the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region at the time, received $3 million over 3 years. So it's essentially $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But let's just break down how that is used. So essentially, that money is meant to provide support for aspiring Black entrepreneurs, so Black founders in our community. In practical terms, that funds 6 or 7 full-time staff members that develop the programming, do all of the admin that needs to be done, that reaches out to the community, that does our social media, all of that sort of thing. It also funds part-time venture coaches who actually deliver to the Black entrepreneurs, a very rigorous programming that helps them to build their business. And it also funds an amazing community of mentors. So these are Black professionals, Black entrepreneurs who have some type of subject matter expertise that they can essentially act as consultants for the Black entrepreneurs in the program. So over that 3 years, we had, with some other funding that we were able to leverage, we had up to 140 Black entrepreneurs who came into the program. They did amazing things. They collaborated with each other. They raised funding. They employed people. And that all enriches not only the Black community, but also the overall community in Waterloo region. Right? So we're also employing, you know, a number of people within our community directly, right, who are employees of the program. So we intend to continue that with Lanterna, and in this case, we want to really focus on STEM entrepreneurship, and also social impact entrepreneurship. So you can break that down really into two different categories. The STEM entrepreneurship would sort of be your typical STEM and deep tech, which requires a lot of funding in order to develop the technology, do the innovation, all of that type of thing. And so we're collaborating with Nobellum, which is a Black accelerator in Toronto, and also the Canadian Black Scientist Network, which is a network of over 1,000 scientists from across Canada, most of them at universities. Right? So I think that's a very powerful combination. And then on the social impact side, we have other partners and applying for other sorts of funding, right? And that is also an area that is of real concern to our community, because a lot of social impact work is in the not-for-profit space. And so how do you fund that, right? And there's a lot of social finance vehicles that are being developed in order to do that. So it's not just government funding, but it's also community foundations, you know, different donors, corporate sponsorships, all of that sort of thing goes into a package, and the government funding can then be leveraged, right? And so I think that we need to be present in order to ensure that all of that good comes to our community, and that we also can control how those funds are spent.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, because even as you were describing $1 million a year, that's employing it's like the infrastructure around, the social infrastructure around the innovator, right?
Yes.
But not the innovator.
Exactly, yes. So,
right.
And that was a misconception that a lot of people had. They assumed that that funding was going directly to the founder. Right? When it actually could not go to the founder, right? But it's really our job as, you know, hosts of the program to bring the opportunities to the founders for funding, and also prepare them so that they are competitive for that funding.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just thank you before I move into anything else, because clarifying how that money is required to be spent is so important. And I know, like, both of you and I are both at universities, or at the same university, and we know a lot when it comes to the grants. There's restrictions on how the funds are doled out, right? And so it's important for us to understand that a lot of these announcements, though they make you feel like the money goes directly to the person that is doing the actual work on the ground, it's not so much that, but the opportunity is in the ability to leverage it for other kinds of things, right? And so I'm going to sort of connect what we've been talking about now to another sort of sub-question that I don't know why, but I'm very, very interested in trying to figure out how we connect this conversation to the same conversation that we're having with young people. right? I know, for instance, the Black Youth Action Plan was in Ontario, and I've spoken about this for those that are watching in past episodes as well, right? The Black Youth Action Plan was developed to address a gap in supports provided to Black youth. When you think about the Black entrepreneurship program, for instance, do they have like a stream for Black youth to connect it to something like that? Or is that something that we as community members have to be thinking about more rigorously?
Yeah, so typically those Black entrepreneurship programs do not reach down to youth.
Okay.
That's something we actually want to change. So we're trying to build into our the next program that we will run a link directly from the Black university students who are in our program with the Black youth in the high schools.
Yeah, I think it's so smart for us to be thinking that way, and it goes back again to like Harry Jerome, his energy is in the room with us, right? With figuring out ways that we can ensure that it's sustainable for Black community members and not just fighting for programs that are like I want to say like the accolades go to the government for trying to help, but we too have that kind of autonomy to be able to create programs that better support us, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it really takes that much in terms of investment, right? So, I mean, one thing that we've learned, we have these Friday night, Fridays after 5 that we host, and without really advertising it too much, we saw a number of Black youth coming from high schools, right?
Yeah.
And they're there on a Friday night.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm trying to think back when I was growing up.
I was not at that program.
No. And when you hear some of the things that they're doing and some of the things that they're thinking about, you know, about their future, their ambition, their dreams, I think that that's something that we need to nurture.
Yeah.
And all it takes really is making the time and the place and the space available.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting because I was thinking about that as well. I was at, I think it was the 2 Fridays after 5s ago, and was surprised when 2 or 3 of the students were like, oh, I remember you coming to visit our school. And so high school students coming to a university campus to take part in a discussion around innovation and to network and to be able to be sharing that space is a really, really important thing. So what I'm going to do, we're going to take another quick break and we'll come back. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the Black Entrepreneurship Program. We'll take one more step in and then I'll get to ask you my favorite question, which will be a surprise for now, but we'll be back right after this break. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so the Black Entrepreneurship Program that we've been talking about has actually been promoting some pretty big wins, right? So I was reading that since their inception in, I think, 2021, you had said, right? They've supported over 24,000 entrepreneurs. And they funded 801 loans worth more than $70.6 million. And I found it fascinating that what they were celebrating were these loans that were going to community. Because loans means that the money had to be given back, right?
Exactly. So, with interest.
With interest. So that is a fascinating thing, which makes me want us to take a bit of time to think about what it is that we could be asking for in a new program that would be better support. Again, I cannot help but think about a founder of a startup who is struggling to make ends meet on a regular, but has this really cool idea. And especially in a place like this where we're encouraging people to follow these cool passions and these cool ideas, right? Loans can't be the only thing that comes to the community. Like what else could we be looking for in these kinds of programs, whether from government or from outside?
Yeah, so maybe I'll step back a little bit. So we have to think about, well, what type of ventures are being supported through the Black Entrepreneurship Program.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we learned is that, and there's a lot of data that's being collected on this through the Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub and others. STEM ventures are not very well represented. And those are the ones that typically require more of an injection of funding in order to get things going. And that's not going to be supported by loans at the level that are being offered.
Yeah.
Right? So, and this goes back to my comments early on about how we have this structural problem, a funding structural problem in Canada where we do not directly support with non-dilutive funding our STEM startups. How do we change that? Maybe this is an opportunity actually for the Black community to take the lead in it. So can we develop through our own resources and take equity or figure out a way that we can finance by grants that we develop with an idea that builds up to equity investments that we can take in the future.
Yeah.
So there's a number of ways that we can think about this and be creative. But I think it's something that we really need to do if we're going to really promote that sort of that area where we have not been participating as well as we should be.
I don't know if you don't know the answer to this, then I can go and try and find it. But I found it fascinating that the STEM startups aren't being as that we aren't investing in them, or this program isn't investing them in as readily as we would assume.
Well, I think for the Black Entrepreneurship Program, we have a lower representation of Black STEM entrepreneurs than other types of entrepreneurs, or other types of other STEM entrepreneurs, right? Just in general. We have sort of this low participation rate of our Black researchers doing startups.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's something that where I think that we can contribute more. As Black entrepreneurs, can we emphasize that area of STEM startups?
Yeah, and can you also tell us a little bit more about the kinds of programs then that are being funded through those kinds of programs, like through the BEP?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really any type of startup that you can think of.
Okay.
Right? So, for example, with Liftoff, we were sector agnostic, right?
Okay.
So we had, every type of program, 70% female-led, which is amazing. But we did have a lower number of STEM startups than we had of others.
Okay. Okay, that's very, very interesting to me, especially because, again, I keep seeing these ways that we can connect things that are typically siloed. There's such a push right now to ensure that we increase the number of Black youth interested in STEM. And that's another one of those programs that we can start connecting to, right?
And I think, I'm thinking back to one of the first times I met you many years ago. The conversation was around, when I'm teaching my courses at the university, these are microbiology courses. I hardly ever see any Black students in those courses.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that? I mean, we're 5% of the population in Waterloo region, 10% in Toronto. There's something that either there's a barrier or there's a lack of interest or something's off, right? And can we use that entrepreneurship as a way to draw those students into STEM? Right?
Well, and this is something I was speaking to a person who is responsible for the K to I program. It's through York University, which is I think they're working with marginalized youth and they're bringing them together. It's in engineering, right?
Okay.
So they're working with marginalized youth, bringing them in to solve some of these big problems that the industry is presenting to them. Yeah. And they have this whole big infrastructure set up. But essentially that's what they're doing, is that they're introducing something that marginalized communities may not see as for them. To them, right?
Yep.
And so those are the kinds of programs that I can imagine. Like, what could that look like? Imagine with me, what could that look like?
Well, I mean, here at University of Waterloo, we do have some programs. So in Faculty of Engineering, they run the STEM-powered summer camps and spring break camps for Black students, and those have been amazing, right? Because it's very hands-on. They actually do science. They learn what science is about. They have members of the university community come in and talk to them.
Yeah.
And those types of programs are the types of programs that really make a difference, right? Because not only does it introduce them to STEM, like the way that STEM actually works, not that they learn in their textbooks, but it also introduces them to the university community.
So then the next step is then we introduce them to entrepreneurship.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, I love it. We're taking over the world like Pinky and the Brain. You can be the brain. I'll be Pinky.
Okay.
Okay, so if we imagine those kinds of programs, one of the things that I always like to leave the audience with are ideas of ways that they as individuals can take part in the civic engagement piece. Like, what can they be asking for? So we've given them some ideas. We can be asking for more entrepreneurial programs that are actually geared towards introducing areas like STEM, but through this innovation lens, right? So letter writing campaigns is one way to do it. Is there a way that they can that people could connect with you, with the organizations, either with in your role at the University of Waterloo or with LBIH, to be able to talk through what that advocacy can look like? I want you to be able to speak to the audience about how to get involved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer of collective leadership.
Yeah.
So this idea that let's all get together in order to find out what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And then address that, right?
Yeah.
And that involves conversations. It also involves building trust, right? Because you're not going to work together if you don't trust the other person.
Yeah.
You have to learn something about the other person, about the organization. And, it might not seem very efficient, but what it really involves is a lot of conversations, right?
Yeah.
And also through those conversations, I always like to frame things in terms of stories, right? So how do you take those conversations and move them to a narrative? And that narrative can lead to where you want things to be. And then you fill in all of those pieces. So that's not a very, maybe a structured way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I could be criticized for being a little bit nebulous in that sense, but I always, you can think of it as improvisation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that improvisation is something that is core to our culture,
Yep.
right? And I think it's also a superpower, because what improvisation does is it allows you to recognize strengths where they are,
Yeah.
right? And you can then bring them in to the center. It often involves rotating through who is taking the lead,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I think that's sort of like a mindset that we should have.
Yeah.
And it also involves being a great listener,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't improvise if you're not listening to what the other
Absolutely.
players are doing, right? And that all goes towards building the community, right? And learning about the different parts of your community.
Well, and I think that part of what you have left us to think about is, for me at least, twofold when I'm listening to what you've just said. One is not to be afraid to take part in this conversation. The conversation that we're having for me, is about financial health and innovation. And again, these are not always easy for a lot of folks to engage with because of their own fears around what's happening with them, either financially or financial health in general terms in their community, et cetera, right? So there's definitely that piece and participating in that conversation. But the other one is my favorite part, and it's that it's not linear to do some of this work. And anybody who's working in innovation and entrepreneurship grows accustomed to things not being linear, right? And so the importance of those conversations that don't seem to be about the thing, but are more about getting to know you, actually shift the focus that becomes what you're passionate about, that you build your venture upon.
Yeah, and if you want to link it directly to entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because failure is learning.
Yeah.
And that basically prepares you for your next venture.
Yeah.
Right? For your next startup or whatever. I'm an experimental microbiologist. I would say that in my lab, 90% of the experiments fail, right? Basically, they give different results than we expected. But that's fine, right? Because you learn from those. And what actually gets published is, built on all of those failures.
Yeah.
And in that way, that mindset developed in my training as a scientist really prepared me for the entrepreneurial journey, because there's a lot of parallels that we can see there.
Well, listen, we've now come to my favorite part of the show. I ask people this question all the time because I think it's so easy for us to get focused on the gaps in programs and the issues and problems that we have in society. And I'm convinced that the more we talk about those problems and become comfortable in those problems, the more they grow. And the solutions, we're not the right vibe for the solutions to come, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody. If you could snap your fingers and make one system change, what would that be?
Evidence-based policy.
Oh, talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
So I think that decisions that are made are often not made with, they're not made honoring the evidence that we have at hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's really important for us to understand that and to call it out when it happens. Right? So, and this goes along with, we hear about millions of dollars and billions of dollars and all that sort of thing. We need to think about that in the context of the overall budget.
Yeah.
Right? So an example that I always think about is we always hear about how much it costs for transit, right? How many times do you hear how much we spend on roads?
Yeah.
Never,
No.
right?
Yeah.
or the comparative amounts
Yeah.
that we spend,
Yeah.
right? How do we improve transportation in our cities? What is the evidence that we can use? Can we take evidence from other places? I was just in the Netherlands a couple of weeks ago, and there's more people on bikes than in cars, and they're all happy, right? I mean, they're riding their bike in the rain, and you know, it works for them, right? And that's something that wasn't always existent in that country. It's something that developed over the last 50 years. And I think that a lot of that decision that they made was based on evidence, right? There's a lot of decisions that we make that are counter to our best evidence or knowledge.
Yeah. I think there's also so much evidence that we have arguments with a lot of different places about actually presenting the evidence so that we can know why certain decisions are being made. So I'm with you about the need for evidence-based policies. Trevor, I just want to say thank you again for the work that you do in community and for joining me on this program and sharing your insights about innovation, entrepreneurship, and financial health in our communities. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Beautiful. We will be right back after this break. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Was that not an amazing conversation with the best, Trevor Charles? For those that are watching, as promised, I will have some links to the articles that we were discussing. I'm also going to have a link to some stuff that I had in my notes, but we didn't necessarily say out loud, but they're important for you to have access to. There will be a link to the Business Development Bank of Canada. That bank is actually set up specifically to help entrepreneurs, so I'll give you the homepage. You can take a look at that. I'll also make sure that there is a connection to or a link to Lanterna Black Innovation Hub. So I'll send you to their homepage so you can take a look yourself at LBIH and the amazing work that they're doing in community. And if you don't already, please make sure to follow me on Instagram. It is everydaypolitics_official. So make sure to follow me there. And if there are any guests, any ideas, any topics that you want me to cover, be sure to reach out. And I cannot wait to see you in the new year.